Namaskar. This presentation was given at the Hindu Temple of Greater Chicago on Saturday, January 12th, 2013, as part of the celebrations of the 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. Jnana Yog. The word is often pronounced as Jnana Yog. In fact, that is the most popular way it's pronounced. The correct pronunciation would be Jnana Yog, but when you write the word in English, it appears to be Jnana Yog. They're all equivalent, so for our purpose, we will use the word Jnana Yog today. Jnana Yog, the yoga of knowledge. I prefer to think of it as the yoga of wisdom. We will talk about three things today. To begin with, we'll try to understand what yoga is in terms of our modern life. And then we'll try to explore what Jnana Yoga is, what is its purpose. And then we'll look at some applications. How can we bring this in our... So let's try to understand what yoga means. I like to think of a framework where we talk about 5 levels of our yogic experience. We live in a material world, and so we need a material entity which actualizes our human experience. The material world is described as jada in our scriptures. The body is informed in all its actions and decisions by the life force, which determines how the body will act at any given moment. So this life force consists of the power and the information grid which enervates the body. Every cell, every organ, every piece of tissue. The life force is in turn informed by the mind, which at any given moment determines how the life force is pervading through the body. When I get angry, for instance, when I feel the emotion of anger, my heart rate might rise, my blood pressure might rise. So the mind, every second of our life, informs the life force and determines what happens to it. And that in turn will affect what happens to my body. The mind then is informed by the intellect, which has the power to drive the mind in a certain direction. It is my ability to think and reason. And ultimately, the intellect is informed by something I like to call the person. It is the conscious self. It is what makes me, me. And it is that which connects to the consciousness that pervades everything. So the human experience is a connection between the material, the materiality that we live in, and the consciousness that we truly are. And that is described as Chetan in our scriptures. So let's try to understand how this works. Every millisecond of our day, waking and sleeping, we are bombarded with information. There are millions of bits of information reaching our brain every second. And it pervades from the outside all the way inside. In turn, there is what I like to call wisdom, which informs our actions, our behavior, our thoughts, our feelings, our attitudes at any given moment. And it is this flow of information upward and wisdom downward which determines our behavior at any given moment. So there is a connection between the material and the conscious. That is our life. And I like to think of yoga as the connection between the materiality and the consciousness. So living a yogic life A truly yogic life means being aware of this connection. As we live in this world, in this material world, if we can remain conscious of our true self and connect with the wisdom at the highest level, then our behavior, our thoughts, our interactions are all in sync with the highest level of wisdom. Goswami Tulsidas ji says, Ishwar ans jeev avinasi, chetan amal sahaj sukh rasi. So we should always be in a state of pure peace because we are ultimately a part of that highest level of consciousness which is always in peace. However, if we look at our lives, this connection between the materiality and the consciousness over time gets twisted, knotted, and we can feel its effect in our life. We can see the effect in our emotions, on our mind, mental states. We can see the effect in our life force as we begin to see the effect of disease from our stresses and ultimately the effect on the body in terms of ill health. So Tulsidas ji says, जड़ चेतन की ग्रंथि पर गई जद भी मृषा छूटत कठिनाई. So he says that between the materiality and the consciousness, a knot is created. So we start the journey of this life without any knots, with a pure connection between the material, the jad, and the conscious, the chetan. However, with time, it gets knotted, the connection gets knotted, and it's very difficult for us to even recognize that knot. So he says, तब ते जीव भयो संसारी, छूट न ग्रंथि न हो ही सुखारी. As we become worldly, as we become of this world, as Jesus Christ said, be in the world but not of it. But as we become of this world, not just living in the world, this granthi, this knot, begins to affect us. And Tulsidas says that until we untie this knot, we cannot achieve peace. So the purpose of yoga, therefore, is to achieve that peace by untying the knot between the material world that we live in and experience and the conscious world that we truly belong to, and that is nothing but peace. It's something like this. We get all twisted and knotted. It affects our body, our life force, our mind, our health, our intellect, our ability to live. And the model that I like to think of is something like this. Our external behavior is what most people see, is how we interact with others. Our thoughts and feelings at any given moment affect our external behavior. If I'm angry, I behave a certain way. If I am happy and pleasant, I'll behave a certain different way. And these thoughts and feelings which are occurring in the moment are a result of my desires and attitudes, which in turn are a result of my deep set acquired beliefs and values, which are truly experienced by me, I, the person. So as we go inward in this picture, we go toward consciousness. As we go outward, we go towards materiality. So yoga is the ability to manage this connection in a way that even as we are in the material world and having a material experience, we are connected to and informed by the highest level of our conscious wisdom, so that my beliefs, which affect my desires and attitudes, which affect my thoughts and feelings, are always in sync and driven by the highest level of wisdom that is truly my birthright. What happens, however, is there are times when I become disconnected from that highest level of wisdom. So the decisions that I make come from a lower level. Information does not go all the way to the top, so the decisions are not as wise as they would be. And it can get to a point where I become an autopilot. What that means is I'm actually not even connected to my mind. It's like mindless living. I just go through my day, do the things I need to do, but just exist. I'm not really having a conscious experience in my life. So, if we understand that to be the role of yoga, let's understand what Jnana Yoga is.